Brandon Bona from OnFocus, and we are here at City Hall in a communications meeting just finished here. For the third time, the city has organized a communications team to talk about the betterment of communications in the city of Marshfield. This is their third attempt to understand what the citizens of Marshfield want. We listened in as they talked about what forms of communication they might do, who they might communicate with, how they might pay for the position. So listen in. And more importantly, tell us below how you want to get your news and what matters.
And if you were going to advise the council on what to do with all that experience, what would your advice be?
I would say let's do what the taxpayers would like us to do. How do we find that out? There's different ways.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
I think we have an obligation globally. The council does, and we I think we're a study committee or an ad hoc committee to represent the cross-section of the community. How and what do they want? But,
okay.
And my experience is that the council typically ignores study committees.
I hope this committee doesn't take a long time to go to action.
Is it being coordinated? And that's the critical.
There needs to be some consistency, and I think that that's what happens is that, I think when I think of communication, I would like to think of, we have a city, method of communicating. We have MCTV, and we have, I think that if we could take that and kind of, you talk about dispersing the information, but just making sure that it's funneled, that using it so that way there's a consistent message coming out.
It may have been an unintentional point, maybe it was intentional. I take great offense to what Marissa said about using MCTV as a focal point. MCTV is one part of the mix. We have to consider that as being another, if it's not a city department right now, it's a quasi-city department.
Clarify my point.
I don't want you wrestling over there.
Oh, it won't happen. MCTV. MCTV says it is what you would call a quasi-city government, since we have full access to that. We have complete access to MCTV. That was my example. So I apologize if I offended you in any way, shape, or form, but it was used as an example.
Don first.
All right. The problem is that the city doesn't really manage it per se. The city could do whatever it wants to do with that. I think there's an opportunity to leverage that money. But keep in mind, the only people that support public access are people who subscribe to charter television, not the direct TV people, not any of the dish people. They are paying it, so to say, well, we're just going to take their money and hire somebody or do whatever we're going to do, it would be wrong because they are paying 5%.
Why I interrupted, I apologize for that, but you're saying the exact same thing. You should have a point person was your thing, which I totally get. And Marissa was stating currently that point thing should be coming out MCTV. So in my book, it's kind of the same thing. We've got this great thing here that we are really underutilizing.
What I'm seeing is that we've got to spread it across a wide variety of ways to communicate with people. MCTV, like you said, reaches the people who have cable. That's it.
And Facebook too, though.
And
You know what I mean?
Facebook.
Like, I wish that number would be
Right.
higher, but
They do
yes.
have that, but primarily the people that have cable.
There's,
The,
I don't want to interrupt you, but most of the hits come on their YouTube,
Right.
which people that have the dishes get to. Just to clarify.
The newspaper, there's a limited and dwindling number of people that have the newspaper.
And I don't know whether the study originated here in the U.S. or whether it originated in England. But the average social media smartphone user turns the device on within 5 minutes of awakening in the morning and then tends to look at it every 12 minutes throughout the day on the average. You can't, if that applies here, we cannot ignore that. But
I really believe, I did not know that the police department had a person that dealt with the communication aspect of it, and that's not surprising why they're a little higher maybe too. But
Well, and I think their videos are catchy. You know what I mean? They're interesting and they're intriguing, and that's really what it comes down to.
and that's
I mean,
safety. I mean, that's a different ballgame too.
Right, and they also did just get national attention,
Yeah.
you know, for one of their posts that they had,
Yeah.
you know, so that, I mean, that will play a part as more people
Yeah.
would,
Whom are we communicating? Where are they located? What do we communicate? When do we do it? Why do we do it? And how do we get it out there? And the how becomes a difficult issue, and once we get to there, I've got some additional things.
Facebook is probably, that type of media is probably going to be more capable of drawing in comments from the citizens as to.
Going on my 19th year on the council, and you know, I'm right on the fence as far as a communication person. I can see both sides of having it. Certainly, Nick mentioned, like the newspaper, for example. Everybody got the newspaper years ago. That was the media that you had things on there. If you go to a communication person, you might have to decide which meetings you're gonna tape and stuff. You want to use the cable TV franchise fees. That came out to me loud and clear.
But I want to just finish up by saying that people I care most about are the ones who grew this city, and that's the seniors. The seniors can't really afford some of the media that is out there, such as the newspaper, because the prices have gone up dramatically. They don't all have access to the internet nor how to use it. And there are people who live in housing that is, you know, not necessarily the Forest Ridge type, that can't afford to have the internet. And if you don't have the internet, how do you get some of the media that's out there, social media? How do you get on the Facebook page for the PD, the fire department, for Focus, for Explore?
I use the library frequently. I've got a computer at home. I use it as a typewriter to process data. But I don't communicate with a whole lot of people by email, so I'm using the computers now at the library. I see people down there all of the time. And you talk to them, and there's a fairly constant theme. Either I can't afford internet, I can't afford a package, I can't afford a computer at home. So I think that parallels what Donna's saying. We've got to sort out, at least within the tier concept that I mentioned, to whom are we going to be sending our messages? And do we want to look at this going, we start locally, and then we move out, and then out again? But who is going to be our focus? And perhaps we look at a timeline for developing a focus. Associated with that, I think, is the where. I think we've got to define our marketplace and do some regional definition, because they are part of our population for 12 hours a day. I mean, I used to drive, for 15 years I was driving to Neillsville. You know how many cars are going to Neillsville between 6:15 and 6:45 in the morning? It's about 4. How many are going the other way? It's a continuous line from Marshfield past Chile.
Stratford too?
Yeah, the same way. So we have to look at who, we have to look at where. And then I think it's going to be beneficial to start to look at the various resources we have for getting the message out, and then start to eliminate some of those. So let's say we list as print media. Well, we have the Marshfield News Herald, we have the Hub City Times. Is one more valuable than the other? Is one irrelevant? I mean, the mayor once noted if we want information about the Fox Cities, we can look at our newspaper. I mean, over the weekend, we got ads from the Meijer supermarkets, one of the closest Meijer supermarkets in Milwaukee suburbs. This is not relevant anymore. But again, take a look at the various sources, break those down, and we can start to make some decisions. This is relevant, this is not relevant. This may work, this may not work. And try to sort out, whether we've got some media partners.
It was globally understood that the city needs some types of communication funnel. A direction, a person, an individual, someone that can communicate on behalf of the citizen. The mayor himself said the mayor is the incident commander in the city of Marshfield. Thank you for tuning in with OnFocus. I'm Brandon Bonifer, and we'll continue to cover this story over the next weeks as the city of Marshfield digests for the third time the importance of city communications here in Marshfield. Until we see you next week.